so much. Sorry. I'm in big trouble, huh? It was horrible. I just didn't see the car coming. Like, thanks. Here.
A pleasant good Monday afternoon. Welcome back to In Session and the Florida versus John Goodman case. I'm Joey Jackson. You know, the lead investigator in this case, Mr. Snellgrove, has been on the stand for most of the day. His evidence includes 911 calls from witnesses at the scene and the defendant himself. Snellgrove is a very important witness for the prosecution. Here with us now to break down his testimony is, in studio, In Session law enforcement analyst Mike Brooks and criminal defense attorney Dwane Cates. Gentlemen, how you doing?
How you doing, Joey?
Good, Joey.
Surviving in a crazy world. So, Mike, let's start with you. Dwane, get to you momentarily. So, listen, Mike, what I find compelling, you see this accident scene, right?
Yeah.
And you see the mangled nature of the car. You have been, as a law enforcement person and as a fire tech, right? You were EMT.
Right. Yeah.
You have been to hundreds, maybe thousands of these scenes. How does this compare to what you've seen before?
I tell you, just when the first time I saw the picture of the two cars and the damage to the two cars, I said it looked to me like a high-speed accident. First of all, if anybody in Scott Wilson's passenger seat had have been in that car at that time, they would have been dead on the scene also. And right before I even knew that Scott Wilson had drowned in the canal, I'm saying to myself, Joey, look at that car. You've got the passenger side all the way over into the driver's side. If I was, I used to be an officer on a heavy-duty rescue squad in Fairfax County, Virginia, and work a lot of accidents, extrications, entanglements. And I tell you, this would have been one heck of a job to work. We had to cut the post, roll the dash, would have had to done a lot of things to this car if it was not in that canal, if it was a regular accident scene.
And Mike, on the wow factor, because I know when you go to these things, it must be like, are you kidding me? With the mangled nature of the car? And the wow factor, as you've seen it, right? Being at all the scenes you've seen, what do you think on the wow factor? Is this up there pretty high?
Yeah, I'd say there's about an 8 out of a wow factor 10. You know, it was a serious high-speed impact accident, and because as I said, if he hadn't drowned in that canal, Joey, he may have died of his injuries because of trauma. They can say, look at that car, look at that Hyundai, and look at the 2,000-pound difference that investigator Snellgrove was talking about. Something else I noticed, Joey, on his uniform. His Palm Beach County Sheriff's uniform, he's got the patch right underneath the county patch that says Vehicular Homicide INVEST.
Yes, he
for
does.
Investigator. I tell you, that makes a lot of wow to the if I'm a juror and he walks in there and you see that patch on his right sleeve, I'm saying this is a guy who knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. So, Dwane, you heard Mike say it. Listen, he's got that patch. You know, we're defense attorneys. Do we object to that patch? Do we say, listen, you got to take that patch
or
away?
I would have wanted to wear a patch that says expert criminal defense lawyer on the sleeve of my jacket. You know,
I thought you did already, Dwane.
I always object to officers bringing their guns to court. I don't like an officer walking up to the stand with a gun on his hip. I think it's intimidating to everybody. I told the judge, hey, I think I should be able to wear my gun if he can wear his gun.
It's a tool of the trade, Dwane. It's a tool of the trade. It's like a doctor and his stethoscope. It's something that you have. What if something happened in that courtroom? Who's going to help the bailiffs? Because the bailiffs,
I got my gun. He wouldn't let me bring it.
The bailiffs are also deputy sheriffs. So it's all the same family, all the same department.
We want peace and harmony in courtrooms,
Absolutely.
Dwane, don't we? But listen, Dwane,
Absolutely, we want peace and harmony. You know, this thing with the crime scene, I think, is a little bit overblown, and I'll tell you why. Nobody's disputing that he hit this other car. Nobody's disputing that he knocked the other car into the canal. You know, nobody's disputing, you know, the intersection where it happened. You know, nobody's disputing much of anything. You know, and they're spending all day on this, and they're making a huge deal out of the fact that Goodman was driving a Bentley.
But let me say this to you, Dwane. Let's analyze this from a defense perspective.
He was driving a Hyundai Sonata. You know, they're trying to make this out to be this evil rich guy, and they're trying to do it through this testimony very subtly.
They are. But, Dwane, listen to this. What I think is troubling people is the expression that, look, the defendant pretty much says that he didn't know he hit anything. I mean, how believable?
No, Joey, that's not what he said.
Well, he said words similar to that.
The
prosecution,
right before this section started, it said, I didn't see the car coming. Mm-hmm. He didn't say he didn't know he hit a car. He said, I didn't see the car coming. And that happens in accidents a lot of times. there's an accident. You say, I didn't even see the car coming.
Well, if that's the case, Dwayne, if he didn't see the car coming and entered the intersection, then the striking vehicle would have been Scott Wilson's car, wouldn't have been John Goodman's vehicle.
Oh, just because he didn't see the vehicle doesn't mean that he didn't hit the vehicle. I mean, that's how T-bones happen all the time. You're going into the intersection, you didn't see the car, bam, T-bone. That's what happened here.
And, what about the impact of the jury, though? How do you deal with this? We're seeing these photographs of these cars. I mean, they're mangled, they're destroyed. You got to think it was a horrific accident that happened here. So how, from a defense perspective, do you mitigate that damage and try to make him look less guilty?
Well, it's going to be very difficult, and I'll tell you why, Joey, because he said in his interview that he stopped at the stop sign and then took off. So the speed estimates and all that stuff's really going to make him look bad. But you got to, but in closing argument, you got to talk about the fact that they're trying to make this out just because he's driving a Bentley and the other guy is driving a Honda. It doesn't make him guilty of vehicular homicide.
Well stated, Dwayne, but they're going to play that up. I mean, it's a significant piece, and so the fact that he's wealthy, they're going to try to use that against him. But, Mike, look, if you look at the whole issue with the impact and him saying he stopped and then he went again, is it plausible, possible, that he could have stopped and then he could have proceeded, or the evidence speaks against it?
The evidence speaks loudly against
Volumes?
it, Joey. I was singing from the rooftops, because the amount of damage done to both the Bentley and that Sonata, that Hyundai Sonata, you're not going to get that from stopping and then starting up and going about 35 feet, approximately 35 feet. You're not going to be able to get that fast, that much inertia, that much and to have the impact and the damage to the vehicles. No way.
See, that's the one thing that's so important in these trials, Mike. You can say anything you want.
Sure.
But does the evidence jive with what you're talking about?
And
if it doesn't, it's a problem.
And that's why this 3D, this thing that Snellgrove, the animation that Snellgrove put together, that's why it's so effective with the jury. They want to see, and it takes them right there to the scene that night, and then you look at the damage to the two vehicles and you put it all together. Wow. I mean, look, this is powerful.
Yeah, but
powerful stuff.
Now,
Joey, like you said before, though, this car had a V12 engine. It accelerates very, very quickly.
Not that quickly.
Now, Dwayne, do you think the fact that the car was pushed into the canal, may be some indication that he didn't know, that is, the defendant, the severity, the significance, or if someone, would be that badly injured? He didn't see a car, right? The car was gone.
Well, what happened was he didn't see the car when he hit it, and then when he hits his head, because he's got a goose egg and a mark on his head. When he comes to, he gets out of his car. There's no car there,
So that has to be played up.
His cell phone battery's dead. So he wanders down the road looking for a phone.
Yes, he does. And how he wandered down the road, and if he wandered, and if he drank before or after, those are going to be significant issues.
They certainly are.
And that's a dark intersection there, too.
Yes, it is. Mike, great work.
Thank you, Joey.
Dwayne,
absolutely.
Great work.
Thanks for having me on, Joey.
Pleasure and a privilege to hear what you have to say. So here's what's next. We're going back to that courtroom to see exactly what happened. More of an investigation.